Hello everybody, I'm Engpo,
I'm Suanchin.
and together we'll be presenting to you a series of videos that will tell you how to make an effective presentation.
We'll begin with this first video clip on how to plan and organize your presentation.
You find that planning is very important for presentation to be effective. Now, good organization and clarity of ideas will help to make a presentation lively, logical, and more compelling to your audience.
You know, when you present, there are certain things that your lecturers will look out for and assess you. So let's run through some of the criteria that we use in assessing students' presentation. First, we have organizing, visuals, delivery, and that includes verbal as well as non-verbals, Q&A as well as content.
Now, when it comes to organization, it actually refers to the structure of a presentation. Now, how do you organize your presentation? And how do you even start your presentation? Now, what are the main points and messages that you have in a presentation? And lastly, how do you actually transit from one part of a point to another part of your presentation? Now, in order to plan your presentation well, the first thing to do is actually to be clear of the purpose and goals of the presentation. What do you really want the audience to get from your presentation? Is it your purpose to share information? Or do you actually want to inspire them? Or finally, is your purpose simply to convince them to do something or even to buy something from you?
The purpose and goals will therefore form the backbone of your presentation. They play an important role in helping you to focus and sequence your presentation. Once you've decided upon your purpose and goals, you're in a much better position to decide on the structure as well as the tone of your presentation.
Now, do make a list of the main points that you would like to make and then express these main points in a few words or a few short sentences.
So Engpo, now that we know the purpose of a presentation is important, what's the next thing we need to look out for?
Well, for a presentation to be effective, you have to make use of relationship between presenter and the audience. It takes into full consideration of the audience needs in order to capture their interest, develop their understanding, and even to inspire them.
So how to understand your audience? You need to consider the following. 1. Ask yourself, who is your audience? How well informed or what level of knowledge does your audience have on this subject matter that you are presenting? How many people will there be in the audience? And are they the decision makers?
After that, you need to be aware of the needs and expectation. Why are they listening to your presentation? Now, what do they hope to get out of a presentation? Next will be how to structure your presentation. You need to first of all focus on the key message that you want your audience to remember. So what's your key message? Write it down and write down the overall message of a presentation, if possible, in just one sentence.
Next, identify 3 or 4 key points you want your audience to know, to learn, and to remember. Your key points should address the needs, pain points, and expectations of your audience. Do remember to write one main point per slide.
After that, think about how do you want to support your key points. Now, what strategy will you use to support your message? What are the evidence that you have that will help you support the message that you want to transmit? Remember, the supporting information will help your audience understand, believe, and even agree with your main points.
This evidence may take the form of factual data, point of detail, or an explanation of the process. It might be presented in a variety of ways, like using diagrams, pictures, or even video segments.
Now next, you want to deliver the flow of the presentation. Now create a logical and simple flow. This can be achieved by using transitions. Now what are transitions? They are actually sign points that will help the audience follow and understand your presentation better. Let's look at some examples.
Well, some examples of transitions can include things like, I will begin by discussing. Or you can say things like, now that we have a broad overview, let's cover each segment in detail. Another way of saying transitions would be, in addition to what I mentioned earlier on.
Now, you see that transitions can be made without speaking. Non-verbal transitions will include pausing, moving to different parts of the room before you resume speaking, making eye contact with a different group of audience, even posing a question to the audience before starting on a new subtopic, etc.
Finally, bear in mind the time frame given for your presentation. Remember the 10, 20, 30 rule for presentation. It is a general rule of thumb to have 10 slides for every 20-minute presentation, and the font size of your slides should be about 30 font size.
After having a clear structure of your presentation in mind, the next important thing to consider is actually the introduction. Introduction is very crucial because this is actually the first point of contact with the audience. You can either capture or lose your audience interest in a matter of seconds.
A strong start will help to establish your credibility and to create rapport with your audience. Use your opening to lay a clear foundation for your presentation.
You can capture your audience attention with an attention-grabbing introduction. What could you do? You could actually use interesting or unusual facts, stories, anecdotes, humor, inspirational quotes, or even rhetorical questions.
It depends on the audience, the topic of your presentation, as well as the style of your presentation and your personality. We will share more with you on these strategies on how to capture the audience attention in the next slide.
Aim to deliver your introduction very confidently. Always wait until your audience has settled down before you start speaking. Greet them with a warm smile and crisp voice. Introduce yourself and your team members if you are presenting as a team.
Then, state the purpose of your presentation. Give your audience an overview of the content of a presentation, who will be delivering which part of the presentation. Remember to inject energy and enthusiasm in your voice. This will certainly help to create a positive first impression with your audience.
Now, once you have a clear structure, you can move on to planning how you will get your message across effectively and how you'll make your presentation more interesting so that you can capture your audience attention, connect with them, involve them, and even engage them effectively.
It is very important to make a good introduction using any one of the following strategies. Understand your audience profile and their interests. This will help you to decide which strategy to use during your introduction. You can also use any one of the above attention-getting strategies during your presentation to connect, to involve, and to engage your audience.
Now, there are several opening taboos that you must take note of,
because these taboos will diminish or even harm the effectiveness of your presentation.
Some examples will be giving excuses, apologizing, fishing for compliments, negative beginnings, too much detail, offensive or unnecessarily outrageous sentence. Remember, an effective start will capture your audience attention and prepare them to hear what you have to say.
Let's watch a video on how 3 speakers use attention-grabbing introduction to engage the audience effectively. You can begin watching the video from 1.56 minutes onwards.
Now, after having a good introduction, the conclusion is another important part of a presentation. You can provide a summary of a presentation, even highlight 3 important points that you want your audience to remember, and restate your key message.
So restate the purpose of a presentation so that it is reinforced in the audience mind and to bring the presentation to an end.
You can use sentences like, in summary, the main points of this presentation are, or you can say, one of the objectives of this presentation was to, and we hoped that you have gained some insight or learned something from our presentation.
There are also several closing taboos that will undermine the effectiveness of a presentation. For example, repeatedly saying things like, I hope I have, or making excuses or apologizing, or ending abruptly without conclusion. Finally, to introduce new points during the conclusion is another taboo.
Now at the end, you should still connect with your audience. So remember, you have to maintain your eye contact with them as you make your concluding remarks. Now give them a warm smile and convey to them that you have enjoyed presenting to them and thank them for listening to your presentation.
Draw upon these points to make a resounding conclusion and leave your audience with a lasting impression of your presentation. Let's watch a video that summarizes what you need to do to organize your presentation.